Hi, thanks for joining me today. I'm Mike Paciello, Chief Accessibility Officer at AudioEye. The subject for our webinar is accessibility in the investing space. When we talk about accessibility, we're often focused on websites, mobile apps, and user experience, all the technology side of it. But when we shift the lens to the world of investing, we start to see how accessibility impacts business strategy, brand perception, and even valuation. Joining me today is Chris Maher, a seasoned CEO and investor who's led multiple companies through growth, change, and compliance challenges. He brings a unique take on how digital accessibility shows up in boardrooms and investment decisions, and why it matters for the companies of every size. Chris, thanks a lot for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Mike. It's a treat to be here with you today. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Hey, listen, just to give our audience just a brief 30,000-foot view of yourself, your background, your professional career, and your daughters and your own personal investment accessibility.
Sure. So I started Samaritan Partners, which is a social impact venture fund focused on the disability sector about 2 years ago. But I'm new to venture investing. I spent the previous 25 years on the other side of the table, actually asking VCs for money. So I was an operator and leader within a variety of small to mid-sized VC-backed companies for about 25 years. And that was predominantly in digital media and internet tech. So software as a service, ad tech, MarTech, data and analytics. In parallel to that, my wife and I have raised two wonderful daughters, both of whom live with disabilities. My oldest daughter, who just graduated from college, has a physical disability. She has a form of hemiplegia on her left side. And my youngest daughter, who just graduated from high school, has pretty significant intellectual and developmental disabilities and challenges. But that's our norm, and we wouldn't change a thing. We don't know any different. And our daughters are doing great. But because of that, I think my wife and I have always been a little more aware and sensitive to other people and families on a similar journey. And so for me, when I founded Samaritan, was really about, could I bring together two things that I'm very passionate about, one of which is early stage entrepreneurship and the other is helping people. And so the Samaritan Fund focuses on investing in early stage for-profit companies, obviously, that are serving the disability community. So they're either creating and building products and services that serve people with disabilities, and or creating employment opportunities for the community.
Yeah, I've always felt that there's a personal, when investors or CEOs, companies that are involved in accessibility, there's almost always a personal attachment. So it's good to hear that more of us that have been in this professional community or a community of people with disabilities hear that personal attachment. So of course, we're very thankful for you. We're very thankful
Thank
to you and your wife for the investment that you've made, and of course, your daughters are just two wonderful, wonderful girls. We're really proud of them and proud of you. Hey, so what makes accessibility attractive then to those in your industry, into the private capital industry?
Well, I think it's early in the curve, but there's a very unique opportunity for, as they say in the venture world, that catalytic capital, that early stage capital, to assist companies in driving and accelerating the innovation that they're developing. And I think that if you look historically, it's a bit of a generalization. The disability community has largely been supported by charities and nonprofits and local
Right.
and federal government. And that's wonderful. But there are limitations to how much those groups can really elevate the community and get them to where they need to be. And so there's an opportunity for private capital to come in to be that catalytic driver, not only in terms of capital, but also in terms of operational assistance and execution. But then also to partner with the nonprofit sector and the public sector to really figure out how to elevate the community and where the tide is rising for all boats, not just for some boats. So I think it's early in the curve. And so for me as an investor, and I know we're going to get into this, and there aren't many of us that are in terms of VCs they're exclusively focused on disability, but there's some amazing innovation going on right now. And so there's an opportunity, I think, to not only drive significant and scalable social impact, but also to get fantastic financial returns while you're doing that.
Yeah, very cool. I can remember, and you and I have talked about this before. My first pitch before a venture capital firm was back in the late '90s with Motorola Ventures, and I pitched my first version of WebAble when the whole web portal bubble was coming up, and that's how I got into this. on your end, what kind of use cases, experiences can you cite, just in general, some of the more current companies that are out there, early stage companies, and maybe those that are even in incubators?
Sure. I mean, I think where I'll start is just some of the companies that we've invested in that I think are going to have, a transformationally positive impact on the lives of people with disabilities in a couple of different areas. And so, Be My Eyes is a company that we've invested in for the blind, low vision community. If you're not familiar with them, they have an app that assists blind people in kind of navigating and interpreting their environment or where they are in any given situation. They can do that through almost 10 million human volunteers globally,
Amazing.
or through their amazing AI. They've built an AI model leveraging their own data of years and years of videos of sighted people helping blind people that really drives the accuracy of that. And so that's one example. But what I love about them is they're free to the community and they're generating revenue and commercializing on the enterprise side. So they're selling that technology stack into corporations and enterprises while being free to the community, which I love. So that's blind low vision. Another example that's also leveraging technology and AI pretty heavily is a company called SignSpeak out of Rochester. They're
Right.
serving the deaf and hard of hearing community. And so they've developed a technology platform that leverages data, AI, and a very human looking avatar to do real time bidirectional ASL interpretation. So, for example, if you were deaf and we're having this Zoom call, you could have a SignSpeak avatar on the screen with us that when I speak, it would be doing real time ASL for you. And then when you sign back to me, it would be giving me a real time audio or caption description of what you're saying. And so I learned an amazing statistic a week ago when I was at a conference and I was sitting next to Chris Sokup, who's the CEO at CSD, Communication Services for the Deaf. And they
Mhm.
provide interpretation services for companies and corporations, nonprofits, states, et cetera. Um, he told me that of all the situation scenarios for a deaf person during the course of their day, where they could use an interpreter to help them communicate, they only have one about 5% of the time. So 95% of their life, they do not have access to the tools and technologies to help them communicate in an effective and appropriate way. That's a staggering number. And so someone like SignSpeak, their goal is not to replace human interpreters, it's to be supplemental and to bridge
Yep.
that gap, that 95% gap where they can come in with technology and AI to provide assistive technologies and accommodations. So, people in the deaf and hard of hearing community can communicate just like the rest of us.
Yeah, so for those in the audience that are listening, we've got a well-rounded picture here. We're not just focused on the blind community, or in this case, the deaf or hard of hearing. There are areas of investment that are being made today that cover just about everything. Now, one of the problems and challenges that I think that we typically, where accessibility disabilities are concerned, is that this notion of reducing risk, right, and compliance. It's always defending ourselves in that sense. So um, how do businesses, or how do you see the value, business value proposition of the social impact, as you said, in these new technologies becoming more of a priority, becoming more of the messaging that these companies drive going forward in the future market space?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that, being the checking a compliance checkbox or kind of being, the insurance policy for a corporation, it may be a way to get in. And that's fine. But over time, you have to show value, right?
Right.
And you have to show that you're either having a positive impact on customer retention or acquisition, or just driving profitability to their bottom line. And that's for any good business. And so I think that as we look at investment opportunities, certainly if they can take advantage of policy and regulation around compliance to help them accelerate their growth, great. But we're looking for how are they literally really driving value and specifically to the bottom line for a corporation. Be My Eyes, for example, if you put their technology into a call center, it can take what originally took a customer service call for a blind customer went from 40 minutes to 20 minutes to like 10 minutes. Like that's a dramatic savings, right? That goes right to the bottom line.
Yeah.
Um, but in addition to that, I think it's also entrepreneurs that are also thinking of the broader market. So it's that curb cut effect, which in recent conversations, I think a lot of people are now saying like it's the caption effect. Cause I think the modern day version of the curb cut effect is the caption effect. Cause I look at my daughter's generation, they watch everything with captions on. I am now using captions in most of what I do in terms of watching video, whether that's live or TV shows and movies. And so that caption effect of, hey, we're building it initially for a specific area or part of the disability community, but the broader population is going to value it and and it's going to be useful to them as well. That's where you expand the addressable market, right? And that's where you expand your opportunity to drive revenue and to scale your business commercially.
See, just listening to you use expressions that I think that are typically associated with, the digital economy and digital startups that are out there today, and talking about addressable market, the TAM and investment at that level, enterprise level. It speaks a lot to what I think Ram Charan talked about, and when he talked about engaging in the new digital economy and how we're going to, grow that. Personalization is going to be a big factor there, enterprise wide, and products and markets like Sign Speak and like Be My Eyes. It's not just themselves as a growth, but they are being carried forward, so to speak, by Meta and Microsoft, et cetera, and so forth. That's exactly what we want. Again, not to, like I'm a fortune teller, but back in the 90s, I said, I'm not worried about the screen reader, the blind interfaces. I'm worried about the voice IO interfaces
Right.
because we're moving to media. We're moving to like what we're doing right now, podcasting. We're moving to interacting models that involve voice and at that level. And that's where I think the real opportunities are. And of course, we're seeing that in the major companies, the enterprises at the SaaS level, particularly.
I
So,
agree 100%.
yeah. So, as an investor, then, why do you think it's important for you, your company, Samaritan Partners, to invest in companies that invest in accessibility?
So first, it's part of our DNA. And so the way that I set up the fund, which was intentional, is I set it up as what's called a public benefit fund. And so it's kind of it's not a B Corp, but it's a variation of that.
Mm,
And what that means is the fund has a stated public good or social focus to the investment thesis, essentially. And that definition is what I said before. We're investing in early stage companies that are either providing products and services to the community and or creating employment opportunities. And that's specific to the disability community. So that was intentional on our part. And the main reason behind that was to create alignment across all the key stakeholders involved. And so that's me and my fund, my investors, and the companies we invest in, and ultimately the community that we aim to serve. And so from the get-go, everyone knows why we're here with Samaritan Partners. We are an impact first focused fund that's investing in early stage companies that serve the disability community. And we are focused on, and our objective is to deliver not only social impact at scale and in a sustainable way, but also great financial returns. And what I love about the disability sector, and Mike, you and I have talked about this, and it touches a little bit on the lived experience that you talked about earlier. I'd say 99% of the entrepreneurs that I've talked to, and that's 250 companies in the last 18 months,
yeah.
um, have a very personal connection to the problems that they're trying to solve. And whether that's them personally, a family member, a child, a friend has been impacted by some area of disability and a specific area problem that they're trying to solve. And so that's important for a couple of reasons. One, that's a real problem. Two, you're kind of starting off with product market fit. Now, how big a problem that is really then translates into the opportunity and the addressable market, et cetera. But I love that about the entrepreneurs in this space. And I think because of that, they, for the most part, are taking a universal design approach, right? They're including the community,
Right.
right? It's nothing about us without us.
Mhm.
As our friend Larry Goldberg told me recently, he's like, or maybe actually, Mike, it might have been you who said we should get to the point where it's just nothing without us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Eventually, in
Be
the future.
invisible. Yeah,
Yeah,
we should be
exactly. It's
talking about
invisible, right? So it is
disability.
just ingrained in
There it's
everything,
all
and
the time. Yeah.
and that's where the personalization comes in. So I think that our goal for all of us should be, we live in a world where no matter what accommodation you require, you could be on a website, in a physical environment, in a school, in a restaurant, and you'd be able to access whatever accommodation you need to have the best experience possible.
Yeah, yeah, that's utopia. We shouldn't have to design any kind of specialized interface, regardless of what it is that we're developing. Hardware, software, you name it. It should automatically be usable and accessible to people with disabilities. That's always been my notion of pervasive accessibility, and I think that's where we go. So, Chris, just a couple of very small, brief questions. There are a lot of folks that are out there. AT Labs, their accelerator, Remarkable. Regina Klein's got Enable Ventures. We've got the Disability Innovation Forum that's coming up in Washington, D.C. in September. Just some quick advice to those entrepreneurs that are out there in the accessibility field. What would you give them right now?
Yeah, I would say it's a great question, and reach out and start having conversations and developing relationships as early as possible. Even if you're not raising money, reach out to me at Samaritan, reach out to Gina at Enable Ventures. On the VC side, there's a handful of us that are purely focused on disability. Some of them are focused on specific areas of disability, and we all know each other. We talk all the time. We share deal flow. We co-invest together. And some of us come in at earlier stages. Some come in at later stages. So reach out and start talking to the VCs as early as possible, and start to develop that relationship and get on their radar. And then there's the accessibilities and the incubators, and there's a half a dozen to maybe 8 or 10 really good accelerators and incubators. So you've got access to success out of Canada with Varun. You've got Remarkable, Miley Lazarus. You've got the Age Tech Collaborative, which is a little bit more about aging, but touches on disability. You've got a couple, you have several that are focused on entrepreneurs with disabilities, like Diego Mariscal and Together International, and RT Segal, who's got Synergies Work, but they do an amazing job in it. Listen, it's a disability or assistive tech focused version of Techstars or Y Combinator. And so
Right.
they're meeting these companies in the markets that they're focused on, and at the stages of where they are as a company and as a business. And they do wonderful jobs. And so I'd reach out to all of them. And by the way, you don't have to just, participate in one. I know companies that have participated in 2, 3, 4 of those accelerators, and they all bring a little something different to the table. They all know each other, work with each other, and collaborate. And so we're a small community right now as it relates to the accelerator community and the VC community, but it's growing, and all of us want it to grow. And we're trying to bring more mentorship and advisory services to this community. And we're also trying to bring more private capital because it needs it.
Very cool. Yeah. So again, just to reiterate, number one, reach out.
Yep.
Reach out, get involved, contact the folks like yourself, like in Gina, AT Labs. Number two, get in touch with some of the accelerators and the incubators, and get some help. That's really what you're looking for. Like you said, the mentorship. Those are the two things I think. The last thing I'm going to emphasize on my own, because it's something I've always said: persistence is omnipotent. Don't give up. You're going to likely
Yep.
run into a number of different roadblocks, but don't ever give up, right? And just keep moving forward. Hey,
It,
Chris. Oh, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
was just going to say, I agree. The entrepreneurial journey is not for everyone, and it is a roller coaster. And there
Yep.
are good days and bad days, and you got to try to keep that even keel. And as you say, just keep being persistent and resilient, and adapt when needed.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Build relationships. That's another very, very important thing.
Agreed.
Chris Maher from Samaritan Partners, thanks so much to be here today. Love talking about investment. I know we could go on for hours just talking about this conversation alone. I'm already getting jazzed up, and it's early in the morning, and I'm already ready to go out and throw some money and get some people involved. But I really appreciate that, Chris. All of the folks that are listening to this, I hope you get some good nuggets to move forward. But like both Chris and I said, don't give up. Persistence is omnipotent. Reach out, and that investment will come. Thanks, Chris, for joining us today.
Thanks, Mike. Pleasure to be with you.